Hello Reds and welcome to Top of the Cop. In today's video we're going to take a look at 5 midfielders that Liverpool should be looking at this summer, because we do need to sign at least one midfielder. When you look at our actual midfielders that are going to be available next year, it looks like Gini is leaving, and if you look how many games he's actually played for Liverpool this year, you'll understand why we're going to need some type of experienced replacement. You know, we've got Thiago, Henderson and Fabinho, which people will say is our strongest 3 midfielders. But the problem is Henderson's obviously the wrong age of 30 now, Thiago is 30 as well, and Fabinho is 27, so we do need to obviously start thinking about the future. I understand we've got the likes of Ox, we've got the likes of Keita still there, but obviously they've not played that much this year, and Milner, but again, age is not on his side, so I think it's obvious that we do need to strengthen in that area, whether it be with a young prospect, which is what FSG like, or a more experienced midfielder. So I've come up with 5 midfielders in world football, and I also think these 5 midfielders would be attainable. Anyway, let's get into today's video, and if you do like it, please do hit that like button, as it does help out the channel, and subscribe if you want to see some more Liverpool content. And with that being said, let's get into it. Now, number 5 on the list is Brighton's Malian midfielder Bissouma. Now, I think this is quite an obvious one because he's been linked with a move to Liverpool over the last month or so. Now, the 24-year-old, who will turn 25 at the end of August, has played a pivotal role in the Brighton's midfield. His talent is undeniable, and people can see why he would slot into the Liverpool midfield. Now, the only reason he makes number 5 is because I do have a few worries with him, and you know, I've obviously seen how brilliant he can be. You know, he scored some great goals, great bits of play within the midfield, but I do notice there is a few faults that for a Liverpool team would not be acceptable. I have seen him being quite lazy in areas, like not chasing down, not closing down quick enough, and I have seen him lose the ball too easily, and also I've seen players just walk past him with no effort. Now, I don't know if that's just because he's playing for Brighton and his head's down, but at the same time, if you want to be playing football for one of the biggest teams in Europe, that cannot be happening. And you know, from an availability point, I do feel that Bissouma would be attainable by Klopp, and I feel a bid within the region of say 30-40 million. Going from obviously previous signings from the Premier League, the likes of Mane, Oxlade-Chamberlain, you know, it'd be a very attainable price for Liverpool. Anyway, moving on. Now, number 4, I've gone for a really young star in the form of Gio Reyna. Now, his availability, to be honest, is going to be next to none. The interest from Klopp would have to be very severe for Dortmund to even listen. You know, he's a 17-year-old American centre-attacking midfielder, and I just think his age, with the experience he's already got in Champions League football and obviously Bundesliga football, alongside the likes of Henderson, Thiago, Milner and Fabinho, I just think it'd be an amazing sign for Liverpool. The reason he's only number 4 is just for the fact, like, we've never been linked with him, there's never been talks about him moving, and I suppose it's more just a player that I see being a perfect Klopp buy, I want to say. Young with a lot of talent, and it also covers a position, centre attacking mid, which we do lack, and we have done since Coutinho left. And although Thiago's been playing in that more advanced role towards the end of the season and doing exceptionally well, obviously, you know, injuries, especially if we want to challenge on all 4 fronts next season, we're going to need some cover there, and bringing an understudy like Reyna in would be absolutely fantastic business by Klopp and Edwards. And it would also fit the FSG model to buy young with the potential, you know, sell-on value. Now, moving on to number 3, and to be honest, he could have been number 1 or 2, but the reason he's number 3 is because I don't know of his availability until after Sunday, and that is Youri Tielemans. Now, the reason, as I say, he's number 3 is just because if Liverpool slip up against Crystal Palace and do not get Champions League football, and Leicester and Chelsea pip us to the post, there is no way in a million years that he's going to leave Leicester, who are in the Champions League, to come and play for Liverpool in the Europa League. You know, it just wouldn't happen. So that's the only reason he's number 3. But let's look at it on the flip side. If Liverpool win on Sunday and Leicester even lose, you know, they may slip out of the top 4 altogether. And I just think this season, you know, he's been very consistent for Leicester and Rodgers. His work rate, his defensive play, and obviously, you know, you've seen in the FA Cup final, he can score a good goal. And he's just that overall midfielder that obviously with Wijnaldum looking like he's leaving, would be an ideal replacement. He'd slot straight into our midfield, but the only issue we'd have is obviously playing time. He wouldn't get 90 minutes week in, week out with Liverpool, but he obviously would be in a better team. No offence to Leicester, as I do think they're an amazing little team. But obviously, just on the stature of things, you know, he would be in a more competitive midfield. I suppose it's down to the player himself if he obviously wants to make that step up or not. But yeah, number 3 for me is Youri Tielemans. Now, number 2 is Ajax's wonder kid, Ryan Gravenberch. I've talked about him in previous videos. For me, he's just a perfect carbon copy of Gini Wijnaldum, but he's younger and he has got a bit more about him. You know, he's that box-to-box midfielder. His defensive attributes are one of his strongest, even though he's not a defensive mid. His ability to read the game around him is just like Fabinho's, you know, it's next to none. And from an attacking point of view, you know, he can pop up with a few good goals. And at the age of 18, you know, he's had a lot of experience with Ajax, you know, playing in the Champions League. And he played against Liverpool last season and he didn't look out of place. I'm not going to say he ran the show, but he definitely caused our midfield a few problems at the age of 18. And as I say, I just think he'd be a perfect replacement for Gini. He'd come in, obviously Van Dijk being Dutch, you know for a fact that he'd want to come and play for Liverpool. It's just if he's on Liverpool's radar or not. He's at obviously Ajax. If Ajax don't want to sell him, he's not going to go. But in saying that, you know, Ajax do sell off their superstars, although they don't want to, because obviously financially it makes a lot of sense for their club. Anyway, Ryan Gravenberch is my number 2. Now, number 1 is a sought-after young wonder kid, and that is Rennes's centre defensive mid, Eduardo Camavinga. Now, you will have heard of him, no doubt. You know, he's probably one of the hottest properties at the age of 18 coming out of French football. And, you know, all of the top European clubs have been linked with him. And I'll be honest, he reminds me of quite a few players. It's crazy. He seems to be able to do everything at the age of 18, and it's quite scary. You know, I said at the top of this he was a centre defensive mid. That just seems to be where he's applying his trade for Rennes at the moment. But for me, he looks more like a Foden style of player. He seems to glide with the ball, and he is left footed. And don't get me wrong, listen, I absolutely love Phil Foden. Shock horror, I know he plays for Man City, but I can't help enjoy watching him play. But I think he's got exactly the same attributes as Phil. But then there's the defensive play. His tackles are spotless. I mean, he just picks the pocket a lot of players, even when they're running a pace at him. He's strong, he's resilient, and again, he's only 18 years old. Whoever signs him, I've got an absolute superstar on his hands. When I think of young players at the top of European football, I think of obviously the likes of Foden, Mbappe, Haaland, Trent Alexander-Arnold, players of that calibre. For me, Camavinga is in that bracket. And as I say, he's playing centre defensive mid at the moment, but if you go onto YouTube, look him up, you'll see that he does play a more advanced role. His ability to pick a pass, his assists, his goals, his strength, it's all there. And Liverpool are dying for a number 10, a person who can sit in front of the likes of Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago and just play football. And you know, he'd get the licence to not even worry about defending with having those calibre of players behind him, and he could just concentrate on applying his trade in a more attacking role. And yeah, you know, if push comes to shove, he's more than capable to slot in at the back or as a, you know, box-to-box midfielder. Anyway, that is it for today's Top of the Cop video. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. Subscribe for more Liverpool content. And if you are on any of the social media channels, your Twitters, Facebooks, Instagram, we are on all of those, and the links will be down in the description below. And until next time, take care, Reds.